Oh, man. Big mood shift there in Indiana. Nothing funnier than watching Indiana lose at basketball, according to theinternet.com. Ron Harper Jr., as you heard the call there, rips the hearts out of the Indiana Hoosiers. This is interesting to see. Your daily sports podcast, news, narratives, takes, gambling, etc. And Indiana, man, they just they consider themselves a blue blood, but their blood hasn't been blue in quite some time. They lose to Rutgers yesterday, and nobody knows if they're good. As we head towards March, it's March 3rd. March Madness is on the way. Conference tournaments going on throughout the day. They started yesterday. We'll go through some of those scores if you care. Other interesting things happening yesterday in the world of college basketball. Odds changing a little bit for who's going to win the title. But Gonzaga, the overwhelming favorite. They've got that guy with the mustache, and they've got that really lanky guy. We're like, wow, how are you not blowing away in the wind? And then it turns out he's actually he's not so bad. Rutgers 17-12 overall. They beat Indiana 18-11. That would have been a big win. That would have been a big win for the old Hoosier Daddies, but they were not able to pull it off. We're going to talk about some NFL draft gambling. We're going to look at the favorites to win the Stanley Cup and the NBA championship, and of course, we're going to see what's happening in the world of baseball, and that's where we're going to start today. So, there's a lockout, and now the Wall Street Journal is reporting what the actual problem with the lockout is in professional baseball, and the actual problem is the luxury tax. So there's a threshold. It was introduced in the 2003 CBA, which I believe there was almost a strike in 2003. And in 2003, they imposed this percentage tax for teams that go over the luxury tax, or the salary limit. So if you spend $210 million and 1 cent, you're taxed a percentage of the total amount of money that you spent. So everyone's like, okay, that's like a competitive balance thing. That makes total sense. But then the tax has kept increasing in recent CBAs, as recently as 2017, when repeat offenders were taxed more aggressively, including 50% of the amount of money spent, I believe. The Wall Street Journal has reported that the Red Sox and the Yankees have spent, I don't know how to say this correctly, an ass ton in going over the luxury tax. As recently as last year, the Dodgers paid $32 million. Now, the problem with this is the players have realized that this luxury tax has become a de facto salary cap, which we talked about yesterday. The salary cap, of course, is the amount of money that you can spend to keep a competitive balance in your particular sports league. However, players don't want that because the rich people, the richest players, are in charge of the union, and they want to make more money, and they can make more money. The 1% of players, the best players, can make more money if there is no salary cap. If there's no limit to the amount of money that they can theoretically make, they can make more money while everybody does not trickle down. Well, they realize that the owners have been kind of sneaking in this luxury tax thing. And when there's a luxury tax, teams are incentivized not to pay players as much. So they want the tax to go up way higher. So there's essentially no tax, and the owners don't want to do that. And that's what they're fighting about. There are other things on the table, like playoff format, review, pitch clock, draft stuff, tanking, anti-tanking measures. There's a bunch of other stuff that are important and that you should hammer out in a collective bargaining agreement. But the thing that is going to keep this from passing is this luxury tax salary cap situation. And I don't know. Billionaires got more money than millionaires. Billionaires like their money more than millionaires, but I just think that the owners are going to get what they want. Players are going to have to cave. Eventually, the union is going to fight amongst itself, I think. Because if you're a guy that's making $1 or $2 million a year, you want that money, and there's a difference from not making $1 million. But the owners could just put their money in gold or bonds or whatever, and they'll make way less money, but they're not going to be worth less money, you know. So I don't see this ending well for the players. That's just sort of my high level view. I'm not sure what else can happen. I don't know that. I just don't think it's going to happen. All right, let's look at college basketball scores from yesterday. Nothing of note happened. The favorites won 2 days ago, or yesterday, excuse me. Rutgers beat Indiana, which was really cool. Everybody liked that. Auburn is good. Arkansas is good. They escaped LSU. The Sun Belt tournament today continues on. Texas, Arlington with Louisiana Lafayette. That game is at noon 30, which is cool. And then the Horizon League tournament, that is also today. I think the first game is Lipscomb against Liberty at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Happy Thursday to everybody. We all miss Thursday Night Football. I know that I do. NCAA odds to win the national championship. Gonzaga is number 1, followed by Arizona, Kentucky. Those are the only 3 that are under 1,000 plus 1,000 odds. After that, the teams between plus 1,000 and 2,000 are Baylor, Duke, Auburn, Kansas, Purdue. Then there's a big jump. You got some more blue bloods in here. Nova, UCLA, Tennessee, and then it's just a shit show, obviously. LSU, Texas, Providence, St. Mary's 10,000. Wake Forest, Wyoming plus 18,000. San Diego State plus 2,000. Memphis plus 18,000. I think it's going to be Gonzaga. I don't know. I'm not here for my takes, obviously, but it's going to be something boring. College basketball always ends up being boring. It'll be one of these 5 or 6 teams, and it won't be the cool one. So you can cross off Auburn and Purdue. It'll be Nova, Kansas, Duke, or Gonzaga. It'll be something like that. Final 4 odds. This is where it could be fun to bet because this is where it's fun to take risks in your bracket. You scroll down to the middle, you got teams like Marquette, USC, Ohio State, Xavier, San Diego State, Wyoming, Loyola Chicago, Notre Dame, Oregon, Iowa State. That's where you have fun when you're going to bet this because they're not going to win the national championship. The cool thing always almost happens in college basketball, like Butler, but it never happens, ever. It almost happens. We'll move to hockey now. The Oilers with their morning skate in Chicago. Duncan Keith, 3-time Stanley Cup winner in Chicago, making his return to Chicago. He won the Conn Smythe Trophy as well. One of the best players, I don't know, one of the best 100 players of all time. Definitely one of the best 20 defensemen or so. Here he is. His teammates surprised him when they got ready for morning skate. This happened yesterday afternoon, I believe. Pretty cool moment for Duncan. The Oilers play the Blackhawks tonight, and here he is walking in. Little mix there from the Edmonton Oilers. Look at those guys with their tunnel like you used to do in youth hockey. Love that. Welcome home, bud. Pretty cool moment there from the Edmonton Oilers. For those of you watching on YouTube, is an old man. Equipment trainers, players, coaches, everybody. Hey, welcome back home. It's going to be an emotional thing. Hockey has a problem right now where they're doing too many of these tribute videos. Like everybody who comes back from their former team is getting one of these tribute videos, and like they can't stop doing it. I don't know what the problem is. This guy is a guy that deserves it. He's won a Conn Smythe. He was a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. The Colorado Avalanche are the favorites to win the Stanley Cup, followed by Tampa, Florida, Vegas, Carolina, and Toronto. You heard that right. Denver. All right, hockey-ish. There's 1 or 2 D1 schools in Colorado, 3 maybe. Colorado College, Air Force, and Denver. University of Colorado and Colorado State should be, in my opinion, but there's 3 D1 schools in Denver. But not a lot of youth hockey coming out of there, not a lot of pros coming out of there. They go there, and there's like a hockey vibe, but maybe one day it'll be into it. After Denver, it's Tampa, Miami, Las Vegas, and Raleigh, North Carolina, which is hilarious. And it's followed by Toronto. The current debate in hockey world right now is Austin Matthews, the American from Phoenix, is he the greatest Toronto Maple Leaf of all time? Canadians are arguing about that. Other long shots to win the Stanley Cup, the one that I like, Pittsburgh at plus 1,600 and Minnesota at plus 2,000. I think they have a shot. After that, I don't think anybody has a shot. The best players in the world play for Edmonton other than Austin Matthews, and they're plus 3,000, but I don't think they have a prayer in hell. I don't know what their problem is, but they got to get that shit figured out. We'll look into the NBA right now. Odds to win the East, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Philly. The weird one here is the Chicago Bulls are plus 1,600. That line has moved down. I wonder if there's like a scheduling thing that Vegas has realized that nobody knows like why, because they're currently number 1 in the conference. To win the West, the Phoenix Suns are the heavy favorite, followed by Golden State. They're the heavy favorites. And after that, Utah, Denver, Memphis, Dallas. Those guys aren't going to win it. There's no point betting it. It will be Golden State or Phoenix. And at that point, if you don't bet on one of those guys, you're actively rooting for an injury. No line movement in the NFL draft. Evan Neal, Aiden Hutchinson still favorites. Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Sam Howell, Matt Corral still favorites to be the first quarterback. We're going to keep an eye on that. If you've been on Twitter, you've noticed that all of the NFL beat writers are showing off their steaks at St. Elmo's Steakhouse in Indianapolis. They just all go there to the combine to ask these athletes these stupid questions of like, what's it like to play at Ohio State? And then they just post pictures of their fucking steaks. The NFL community is weird. They're just all in the up. They're up each other's butts, man. They're just a strange group. They really are. So the combine's happening. Most of the good players are not going to do a lot of the workouts. There's not a lot to be gained. There is a big difference between being picked, say, 7th and being picked 30th. And there's a big difference between being picked first and being picked 12th, but these workouts aren't going to determine that. What they're looking for is how you interview, and that's when they ask you questions. And this is a real question that we know that a lot of them get asked. Are you a cat or a dog? What would you do if it came out that your mother was a prostitute? Things like that. They just want to see how you respond. It's barbaric, but it's also helpful. They like to get an intimate knowledge of these guys. But the other thing that happens in the NFL Combine, and this is fun, it is currently against the rules to negotiate contracts for free agents. However, if you're drunk at St. Elmo's Steakhouse and, oh, look, there's the agent of like 4 of the guys we are interested in, and I'm a GM, like, hey, let's share an Uber. So the Combine is not about the draft. The Combine is just to make sure these players have their shit together and they can do something in public, and it makes the NFL a ton of money. Eventually, these players are going to start charging the NFL money to work out, which they should do. Like, they should band together and be like, yeah, I'll take $1 million to do all the workouts. The NFL wants people to do it. So it's very helpful for the low-level draft picks. It's not helpful for the high-level draft picks, but it is an enormous part of the free agency process, and it's where deals are going to get hammered out. There will be trades that, if any trades happen in the offseason, they'll be hammered out this week. All of that stuff's happening hush-hush behind closed doors. Speaking of that, Aaron Rodgers. So the Packers have reported that this is so stupid. The Green Bay Packers have reported that they have yet to receive a trade offer or a phone call inquiring about Aaron Rodgers, but the Washington Commanders, that's a real thing, have reported that they've called every team about a quarterback. So I tend to think that Washington is lying, just based on history. But who's to say? I mean, at this point, how can we really tell? Oh man, it's that time of season. It's kind of a dead zone for the NFL. NHL trade deadline coming up, and March Madness starts next week. Conference tournaments are already underway. The big conference tournaments start next week, I do believe. So we'll get you out of here on this. Tony Stewart showed us his house yesterday, mansion in Ohio, and everybody's, that's why Bass Pro Shops is trending on Twitter. It was like, hey, want to know what it's like to live in a Bass Pro Shops? Look at these pictures. Crazy. NASCAR drivers make some money. I'll be back in better than ever tomorrow. Like, rate, review, subscribe, knuckleheads.